Okay. So we have learned about analog and digital signal conversion. Okay. So as semua nampak dokumen yang saya share ni, so we will base on the document that I shared with you lah. Dalam Putra Blast kan. Okay. So semua should be familiar with this block diagram where when we have analog input devices, we need to convert the analog signal into digital so that microcomputer or microprocessor or our controller can recognize the signal and then manipulate the signal before they send it into analog output devices. So before they send it to analog output devices, the digital signal has to be converted into analog through digital to analog converter first. Okay. So these are the block diagram of the connecting analog and digital devices to a computer. If you refer back to the notes that I shared in the Putra Blast. So we have discusses about how do we convert the data. Let me go straight into analog and digital signal conversion. Sorry. Okay. So untuk convert digital daripada digital to analog converter, kita ada dua jenis DAC, which is the binary weighted resistor DAC. Okay, yang pertama, the first one that we discuss is the binary weighted resistor DAC, where we try to convert the value of the digital value. For example, if you study back your lecture note, we have done an example of how we want to convert the digital value of 1101 or decimal 11, okay, to an analog output voltage. Okay, so this is the equation for you to convert the digital value into the voltage value, where it used the 4-bit binary weighted resistor DAC, 4-bit. Okay, so using the equation, you should be able to convert the 1101 value to 11 volts. Okay, so in the test or in the examination, similar question will be asked. For example, you will be asked to convert a decimal to convert a digital binary value of, for example, 1001, and what is the V output for the binary weighted resistor DAC, and you need to show the calculation like this, similar to the one that has been shown in your lecture notes. Okay. So if you refer to the calculation, if you refer to the circuit, this is how the circuit looks like. So basically, we enter the digital value into the analog to digital converter 1001, for example, and then the voltage output will come out here as 11 volt, for example, this one. So if we make a table of the digital inputs versus the analog output voltage, we should have 0000 is equal to 0 volt, 0001 is equal to 1 volt, and if you go further until 1111, you will get 1111 as 15 volt based on this binary weighted digital analog converter circuit. Okay. So please make sure you know how to do the calculation. You can go back to the example in the lecture. For example, this one shows you how the solution of how you convert the 1001 digital value to the voltage output of to the corresponding voltage output. For example, 1001, you should get 9 volt. Yeah. So here you should get 9 volt answer. Okay. So here is also some example. So please do the example in the lecture note so that you understand more how the calculation of the conversion. We also discussed another type of the digital to analog converter, which is R2R ladder network or R2R ladder DAC. Also shown here in the lecture notes, and it shows you the detailed circuit of how circuit convert the digital value to the voltage output, and you should be able to get the same answer as the one that you use the first method. Okay, sama juga, but only different equation. Okay, so the difference between the first, you also need to know, we already discussed in the class, the difference between the weighted resistor DAC and the R2R ladder digital to analog converter. Okay, so what are the difference between the two? Siapa ingat? Anybody want to answer? Sebab saya macam bercakap seseorang je ni. I'm not sure whether you are listening or not in the class. So there are advantages of R2R ladder network over the binary weighted resistor. So that question, I think very for sure, almost every year I give that questions to the students. Why do we have another type of DAC over the other one? What is the difference and what is the advantage? So you need to know and you need to study. From this lecture note, if you study it, you should be able to get the answer. Okay, so using the R2R ladder network also, you should be able to calculate the digital value 0110. For example, in this example, it shows you how to convert 0110 to the voltage output, and the calculation, if you do the calculation, you should be able to get the voltage output of 6 volt. Okay. Okay, and then after we know how to convert the digital value to the analog value, we also need to understand what are the characteristics of the digital to analog converter. Okay, so there are a few characteristics. If you go further, refer to the notes, we have DAC characteristics. Okay, so basically DAC characteristic is more to know whether the conversion, the digital to analog conversion has been done correctly or accurately. Okay, so there are a few characteristics. The first one is, we call it resolution. Okay, okay, resolution means the smallest details of the conversion, and the resolution of a DAC is known as a step size. Okay, so we have to calculate the step size, and then we can calculate the percentage of the resolution. So this is the equation. The percentage of the resolution is equal to the step size over the maximum rated output voltage multiplied by 100. So because it's in the percentage, so you multiply it by 100. Okay. So to apply this formula to an example, the DAC in figure previously, okay, so the DAC that has been discussed previously is this one, yeah. It has a 19.5 millivolt step size. Okay, so the step size, 0.0195 the step size divided by the maximum rated output voltage, which is the maximum range of the DAC, which is 5 volt, and you multiply by 100, you will get 0.39% of resolution. Okay, that's how you calculate the resolution. Okay, how do we calculate the step size? So the step size is calculated by dividing the range of the voltage of the DAC divided by the size of the binary. Okay, for example, this one is 8 bit, so 2 to the power of 8 is 256. So 5 volt divided by 256, you will get 19.5 millivolt. Okay. Okay, that is the first. The first characteristic of DAC, resolution. The second one is monotonicity. They call it monotonicity. Okay, so what is monotonicity? When a free running counter is connected to the input of a DAC, its output voltage should continually step up, producing a staircase waveform. Okay, for example, I show you the picture here. Okay, so when we convert the value of the voltage and you plot it, okay, the counter of the voltage value should be step up like this. Okay, it's always increasing one step by one step. Okay, but if it doesn't happen, okay, and it happened like this, it's supposed to be one step at a time, and suddenly for the second step it didn't step up, it just maintained at its status, so that is called monotonicity error. And the same thing if it's supposed to be step up and suddenly it go down, okay, and then step up again, so this one is also monotonicity error. Okay, so that is another characteristic of DAC where we can always check in the circuit, in the hardware, okay, when we put the voltage value and then keep increasing the value, supposedly the counter of the digital value should be step up continuously like this, and if something wrong happen, we call it monotonicity error. Okay, so that is the characteristic number 2. Okay, monotonicity. And then other characteristics are we call it, okay, step size. Just now I already told you how do we measure the step size. The maximum rated output voltage, which is the maximum range of the ADC. For example, 5 volt. The one that we always discuss in the class is 5 volt. So 5 volt divided by 2 to the power of n. N is the number of bits. So for example, if the DAC is an 8-bit DAC, so you should divide 5 volt by 2 to the power of 8. You will get 5 volt divided by 256, and the step size will be 19.5 millivolt. Okay, it's very straightforward. And if you focus on reading the lecture notes carefully, you should be able to understand. We also have another characteristic called settling time. Okay, the settling time of a DAC is the time it takes for a DAC analog output to settle to 99.95% of its new value after a digital input has been applied. Okay, so you know that when we convert the analog value to digital value, okay, the analog value will continuously inputted into the DAC. So once you input one value, it will convert. One inputs a new value, it will convert to digital. But how fast that digital value is being converted to settle at the value of the digital at 99.95%, that is what it calls settling time. Because sometimes when you convert, the value will keep changing. For example, you input 5 volt, supposedly you will get always straight 11111, the digital value. But sometimes because instability, okay, it takes time for it to settle to the value of 111111. Okay, so the faster the number settle to the real value, then the better the conversion is. Okay, so usually the settling time it's very fast. It's around 300 nanoseconds. So macam lagi cepat daripada a blink of eyes lah. Kalau kita pejam mata pun tak sempat, sebenarnya the conversion is very fast. And it range from 50 nanosecond to 20 microsecond. Kalau microsecond tu dah kira macam lambat lah. Okay, it's nanosecond. It's very fast. Okay, and then of course accuracy is another characteristic that we consider to see whether the DAC is performing well or not, is accuracy. So the accuracy, the relative accuracy of a DAC describes how much the output level has deviated from its ideal theoretical output value. Okay, so kalau for example kita dah buat calculation kan before, if we masukkan 10001, the voltage value should be 9 volt. Okay, so if kalau kita buat conversion dalam the microcontroller tak dapat 9 volt, but instead dia dapat 8.999 for example, so that is what it's called accuracy, meaning it has some 0.0 how many percent of error from the theoretical value that we calculated. So it's the differences between the theoretical values and the real value that we measure in the hardware. That is what it calls accuracy. Okay. Okay, and then I also would like to suggest all of you to go through the DAC application circuit, whereby you can see how the example of the DAC conversion has been done in the textbook. It shows you how the conversion is done for this one is much more bit numbers. Before we do example for only 4 bits, but this one the example show you how do you convert 1111000001, which is 8-bit DAC. Okay. Okay, so the rest are the same. We have discussed before, so I just and it also have some example review question. You can always do the review question. Okay, before we go further, is there any question from everyone? Any questions?
No, doctor.
Clear? Is it clear what that the one that you learned before?
Yes.
Faham ya? Okay, so I would like to share with you just a recap of what we just discussed. Kita baru je discuss, so this is my own notes about what we just discussed today. Okay, so DAC performance characteristic. Okay, yang ni if we look it into a more a general way of how do we characterize the performance of the DAC. Okay, so you can also calculate based on quantization error. Quantization error is the maximum error that results when an analog signal is decriticized. Okay, we can view it as, so if you, for example, have a binary level 0, 1, 2, 3, okay, and then you have a voltage range from here to here, okay, so the quantization error should be based on the step size. We discussed about the step size, okay. So the smaller the quantization error, meaning the smaller the quantization error, the better the conversion of the digital to analog. Okay. So quantization error is defined as the half, one plus minus half of the least significant bit value. Okay. So the actual voltage level we desire lies within 1 LSB. Thus, the maximum possible error is half of the least significant bit. Okay. For example, this is very easy for us to calculate. For example, we have the maximum voltage is the range, the maximum voltage is 0 to 10 volt, which is 10 volt, the range of the ADC. And you have to divide it by 2. You have to divide it by 2 to the power of number of bits. Okay, so sama juga dengan step size. Basically, the quantization error is similar to what we have calculated before, which is the step size. Is half of the step size. Okay. So this is basically the step size is, in this case, the step size is 0.039 volts. And then the quantization error should be half of the resolution, the step size, which is 0.019 VDC. Okay. And then other performance criteria is, of course, absolute accuracy, relative accuracy. I already show you the accuracy, how to calculate accuracy before. So basically, is absolute accuracy is the absolute difference between the theoretical value and the measured value. And then relative accuracy is the difference, not absolute, but the difference between both. And then we also have precision. We have discussed earlier in this class what is precision, what is resolution, and also linearity. Linearity is similar to what we have discussed, which is the monotonicity, the one that I've shown you, where the step size should increase step by step linearly. Okay, but if it doesn't, if not linear, then it has some bad performance. Okay, so that is another way of us to characterize the performance of our DAC. So here another one is quantization error. Okay, previously from the lecture note, we have discussed the step size, resolution, monotonicity, settling time, and accuracy. Okay, so basically in the examination, I will ask you, okay, what are the characteristic, how do you characterize the performance of DAC? And then you should be able to answer that, oh, we can characterize the performance of DAC based on the step size and show some example of calculation of the step size. And then resolution, monotonicity, settling time, accuracy. And also you can also you can also characterize the performance based on quantization error, which is half of the step size. Okay. Okay, so I think we are done with the digital to analog conversion topic. We are moving towards another topic, which is digital recording system. Okay, for digital recording system,
Doctor, we can't hear you.
sorry, mute. Dah lama ke tak dengar?
Tak lama pun.
Okay, so from ni lah kan, okay, yang baru, new topic, we are going to discuss about digital recording system. Okay, in digital recording system, we need to understand data distribution. Okay, tadi selepas kita dah convert everything analog to digital, digital to analog, so we need to understand also how the system record the data and how the system distribute the data. Okay, so we need to understand data distribution. And then under data distribution, there are a few terminology ataupun konsep yang kita kena faham whereby how the data being distributed in the system. So basically the data is being distributed in the system through bus structure. Okay. So the bus structure ni, bus ni bunyi dia macam bus kan, bus express yang you all naik itu. So basically sama, dalam case kita ni, dia sama macam bus lah. Dia mengangkut informasi dan bawa dia ke satu tempat ke tempat yang lain untuk transmit, untuk didistributekan. Okay. But in this case, it's not like a bus yang ada tire and engine. But in this case, it's actually dipanggil sama ada menggunakan wire transmission ataupun wireless transmission. Okay, so the one that we discuss in this class is mostly the wired transmission. So wired transmission in there are a few protocol for us to distribute the data. Okay, RS-232 is a standard bus protocol that has been used long time in digital communication. Okay, RS-232 ni nanti saya akan tunjuk dia punya kabel macam mana bentuk dia. Okay, and then we have another type here, IEEE 488 is another bus structure for digital communication. Okay, so dalam lecture note ni dia hanya bagi contoh dua sahaja. Bus structure, only two basic bus structure that has been long used in digital communication. But nowadays there are a lot more other bus structure yang you all dah pakai sekarang ni, dah mostly dah tak ada dah IEEE 488 ni ataupun 232 ni. RS-232 ni still being used but mostly dekat dalam very high instrumentation setup lah, not for daily life ya. For daily life macam kita sekarang dah banyak guna USB. So I will show you, with you the example of the data communication system. But we need to understand the fundamental first, okay? Okay, selain daripada guna kabel, okay, dia RS-232 and IEEE 488 ni adalah kabel lah basically ya. Okay, selain daripada kabel, there is also plug-in boards. Plug-in boards ni macam you plug in je. Dia tak ada kabel, you directly plug in into the CPU of your computer. Okay, so saya akan tunjukkan nanti dalam my slides how the plug-in boards is used in most computers lah. Okay, dia tak payah kabel. Okay, so in data distribution, we need to understand bus structure consists of RS-232, IEEE 488 and also plug-in boards. And then we also need to understand macam mana this system, instrument system, the component in the instrument system interfaces between each other. Interfaces ni maksudnya dia punya communication language across the entire system. So language basically they are using what? They are basically using ASCII code, ASCII, American Standard Code for Information Interchange. So basically the numbers, basically yang saya dah pernah ajar kan macam mana how do you convert decimal value to hexadecimal value. So hexadecimal value is mostly being used to build ASCII code for information interchange. Basically macam coding ni lah the communication inside the digital system basically using ASCII code. Okay, okay, that is about data distribution in the digital recording system. Okay, and then in the digital recording system also we have data logging system and data acquisition system. Ada dua sistem yang kamu kena faham di sini. First is data logging system and the other one is data acquisition system. So in the exam usually I will ask what are the differences between data logging system and data acquisition system. So if you go through the lecture notes, you should be able to, in fact dalam lecture note yang saya share ni, I already underlinekan what are the main point for data logging system and what are the main point for data acquisition system for you to make comparison. Okay, between the two. So probably later I will discuss further what are the differences between data logging system and data acquisition system based on the slide that I've prepared. I will share with you the slide kejap lagi. Okay, so that's basically, and then we have waveform recorders. Okay, waveform recorders ni is more like the one, the component or hardware that we always use in the control center or in the labs. It's not really for daily lives. It's more on the laboratories and for instrumentations lab. Okay. Also, I will share it with you in the lecture, in the slides. Okay. For aliasing and anti-aliasing filter, okay, we need to also know that the data transformation ni usually have a lot of interruption ataupun noise. Okay, that's why they introduce filter, okay, filter to help the signal become better. But this topic I will not cover for our class because it's more towards digital electronics engineering, okay, not for instrumentation. Okay, let me share with you the slides for the slide for this topic. Before we go further, is there any question from anybody? Okay, kita teruskan ya about digital recording system. So you guys can also always refer to the digital recording system nota yang saya akan, when you do your revision to understand more about this topic, you should refer to the notes that I've shown you earlier. Okay, and then refer back and read carefully the notes lah. So this slide is based on that notes. You can also go to www.ni.com. There is a white paper about what is digital recording system for your extra reading for you to understand the topic. Okay. Okay. So before we discuss about the digital recording system, saya just nak tunjukkan this is the analog to digital converter. Yang kita discuss about the analog to digital converter kan just now. We discuss about macam mana the signal digital values has been converted into voltage. So tapi dalam hardware dia macam mana rupa dia. So I just want to show it to you. Analog to digital converter is basically a chip macam ni. It is a chip. For example, this one ADC Max 186. Okay, it is a 8-bit analog to digital converter. It's a silicon chip. Okay, dalam bentuk macam ni. Okay, so this board is basically an analog to digital converter board that is yang di-develop secara sendiri. Kita develop secara custom made lah basically. You actually can build your own analog to digital converter. Okay. So kalau kat sini kamu nampak this is an ADC, and then after the data is being converted, okay, you will have a bus structure. This is basically parallel port ni adalah bus structure yang digunakan untuk connect between sensors and the parallel port of the devices. Okay, so kalau you nampak parallel port macam ni, it means it's using IEEE 485 bus structure yang saya beritahu tadi. We have two type of bus structure. One is RS232 and one is 485. Okay. So just to show you gambaran dia, kalau kita secara teorinya macam tu, tapi secara hardwarenya rupa dia macam ni. This is what we are talking about in the lecture notes. Okay, measurement hardware components of PC-based data logging and acquisition system. Okay, so what is data recording system? So data recording system terbagi kepada dua, data logging system and data acquisition system. So you also need to be aware of the differences between the two. Okay, so kalau ni kita tengok kat sini, of course when you have an input-output signal from the sensors, it will goes into the signal conditioning and it will go to the digitizer. Digitizer ni is actually the analog to digital converter, and then barulah dia akan display ataupun log. Logging mean you record the information in the computer. Acquisition is the same, you also record but you also do extra.
Kalau dia lanjut yang betul tu hujung lambat sikit. Masa berat sebab harapan ni dia tak dengar pun lepas 14 tu kita lanjut sampai pukul 10. Tapi kalau sebab PKP dua itu. Sebelumnya. Ingat. Tapi gantung. Kalau kita biasa masih sama je.
Dia tolong you.
Ya apa UPN tak masuk.
Muhammad Sufi, kamu unmute kamu punya ni saya mute dah. Okay. So kat mana dia tadi? Sekejap. Okay, so tadi kita talking about data logging system and data acquisition system. Okay, bus structure, there are two type of bus structure. Sorry. Okay, bus structure seperti yang saya cakapkan tadi, okay, bus structure is basically the communication transmission of the data. Okay, so bus structure ni basically kita gunakan dia untuk connectkan between between devices or machines, workstations like PC, printers, between your modem, between your sensors and many machines lah, data acquisition system. So biasanya kita akan guna bus structure. So bus structure ni basically wire lah. In our layman language is basically wire. So if you look at the type of wires that being used nowadays, there are many kan. So kalau you go back, kalau kamu tengok dekat belakang you punya CPU tu, there's a lot of cable, jenis kabel kan. Okay. So if you look at the one that is connected to your printer, for example, selalunya printer zaman dulu dia ada banyak this point banyak pin macam ni. Okay. This is what we call parallel bus structure. Okay. So parallel bus structure usually is correspond to the IEEE 488. Ada soalan tak? Sekejap nanti takut kamu tak ni, saya tulis terus kat sini. So this one is IEEE 488. Kalau yang macam ni pula, kalau yang pin dia sedikit, okay, pin dia sedikit, usually it is the form of RS232. Okay. So RS232 adalah bus structure yang pin dia sikit. Sebab apa pin dia sikit for RS232? Sebab dia adalah serial communication. Serial communication means data transmission is bit by bit. Maksudnya dalam satu masa tu satu bit dikeluarkan. That's why dia punya kabel dia mempunyai pin yang sedikit je sebab dia macam transmit satu line. Okay. Kalau IEE488 dia adalah transmission secara parallel. Okay. So you kena baca balik, make sure kalau saya tanya dalam exam, what is the difference between IEEE 488 and RS232? This one is parallel com. Okay. And RS232 is serial com. Serial communication. Serial communication maksudnya data transmission secara serial, satu-satu. Satu bit satu, satu bit satu. Satu line je lah dia punya transmission. Tapi kalau parallel maksudnya 4 bit serentak ataupun 8 bit you transmit serentak secara parallel. Okay, that's why dia ada banyak pin sebab dia nak transmit serentak dalam masa, contoh kalau dia nak transmit 8 bit serentak dalam satu masa, so dia kena ada 8 line terus. Okay, di mana RS232 ditransmit secara serial. Maksudnya dalam masa tu dia hanya ditransmit satu bit. So satu line sahaja. Okay. That is the difference between RS232 and also for IEEE 488. Okay. Okay, what else the differences between IEEE 488 and RS232 is that RS232 ni usually for long distance punya transmission. So kalau you perasan kabel untuk yang guna RS232 ni dia lagi panjang berbanding kabel yang IEEE 488 ni. IEEE 488 usually kabelnya a bit shorter distance ya. That is the difference lagi. Kemudian IEEE 488 ni walaupun dia shorter distance tetapi dia adalah untuk low baud rate. High baud rate. Maksudnya dia punya transmission is high. Maksudnya lagi cepat lah high baud rate. Kalau serial communication walaupun dia long distance tapi sesuai untuk low. Okay. Maksudnya dia punya transmission lebih slow tapi dia sesuai untuk long distance. Okay. This is short distance. Okay. So that is the two main characteristic of the bus structure. Two main bus structure, IEEE 488 and RS232, and what are the differences between the two? Okay. Namun these two are a very conventional bus structure. Nowadays, the one that you being used a lot in your daily lives is more what does it call this one? Siapa tahu? USB lah yang paling banyak sekarang digunakan. Kalau kabel kita banyak USB. Kan? So USB actually is another protocol macam RS232 juga tapi dia USB. Dia lagi pantas, lagi canggih lah untuk masa sekarang, lagi cepat dan juga dia adalah juga serial communication. Dia sejenis serial communication juga dia bukan parallel, okay? Dia handy untuk low baud rate lah, macam sesuai untuk low baud rate yang simple-simple, yang transmission data yang simple-simple macam bila you nak guna kabel untuk transmission untuk you punya data from your handphone kan. It's a very simple one. But IEEE 488 ni biasanya digunakan untuk mesin-mesin atau equipment instrumentation yang sophisticated, yang data dia sangat banyak, heavy and it's very sophisticated. That's why we use IEEE 488, okay? In fact sekarang pun kalau dulu-dulu printer pun guna IEEE 488 but now printer dah guna USB je kan. So now printer pun dah semakin canggih lah. Okay, okay, tapi ni belum cukup canggih, okay, because all of these are apa? All of these are wired communication ya. Wired. Maksudnya data transmission secara wired lah, secara kabel kan. Communication. Okay. But nowadays you also kalau daily life ataupun dalam banyak dah any instrumentation pun we use a lot of wireless communication also. Okay. Okay, so but we are not discussing about wireless communication in details lah, but you need to know. Sebab dalam you all punya lab pun you all guna wireless communication. You try to use the wireless communication using IoT kan. You try to connect your Blink to your Wi-Fi module kan dekat you punya Ecoduino. So that is basically wireless communication. You try to code the devices so that it can communicate wirelessly. Dalam case tu you don't need any wire. Tapi you also do wired communication in your Ecoduino where you connect the USB serial cable kan to your Ecoduino. So that is basically using USB lah, the latest communication technology for instrumentation. Okay, ada soalan tak setakat ni? Okay, kalau tak ada, okay, this is what we okay. Saya beritahukan tadi before in the lecture, in the lecture notes tu, we have two type of the communication transmission using IEEE 488 and juga RS-232. But then there is another one, they call it plug-in boards kan. So apa tu plug-in boards? You all macam tak boleh nak bayangkan. So plug-in board tu sebenarnya a slot card macam ni. If you have kalau you all ada PC yang lama-lama tu, if you buka you punya CPU, there is a slot in board kan macam ni. You boleh slotkan dia sahaja dekat dalam komputer. So that is plug-in data acquisition board. Yang ni tak payah wire. You just slot terus ke dalam komputer. So there is no wire there but there is still a protocol lah for the data transmission. So this is what we call plug-in boards ya. Okay, tadi juga kita ada cakap pasal interface, okay, the communication between the system ni semua, okay, dalam sini, kan, all these devices, digital devices communicate to each other using cable, using USB cable, using serial bus and everything. Ada juga guna wireless. Tapi apakah language dia, kan, language yang digunakan. So language yang digunakan is basically based on ASCII language ataupun American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Okay. Okay, digital multimeter is an example of a very simple data logging system. Okay, it's a simple data logging system ataupun data logging instrumentation. Okay, so basically you measure the information, okay, through the cable masuk kat dalam ni and then it records and display the value. Okay. This one I just want to show you that digital voltmeter ni sebenarnya kita boleh custom made. Kita boleh buat sendiri guna microcontroller, lepas tu kita guna our own digital display and then kita boleh programkan the microcontroller to display the value of the voltage that we measured. So basically apa yang ada kat dalam digital multimeters tu basically is similar konsepnya macam kita develop sendiri guna microcontroller. Okay, just to show you the example. Okay, data logging versus acquisition system. Okay, kita belum discuss lagi apa perbezaan antara data logging system and data acquisition system. Okay, so the main, you all just need to understand that the main differences is that, okay, first kali persamaan dulu. The main similarity, persamaan antara kedua-duanya adalah both of them record data. So they are both of them record. So they are record the output from large numbers of transducers. Okay. Okay. So they are both of them recording data from transducer. Okay. Okay, bezanya data logging system ni capability dia adalah lower than data acquisition system. Okay, so data acquisition system usually dia boleh display a more sophisticated graphical, dia ada graphical processing capability macam ni. Dia ada screen yang boleh display all these graph yang sophisticated. Di mana data logging system pula dia punya display are very simple, the one that macam logo-logo macam ni ataupun nombor sahaja yang dia boleh display. That is the main difference. So basically this one can do more analytical on the data, more analysis on the data, but data logging system usually they get the data, they process just to display it back into the logging system. That is the main difference between the two. Okay. And then data acquisition system, they are much faster and higher memory capacity than data logging system. So data logging system has a smaller capacity of memory. Boleh simpan sikit je data. But data acquisition system can store a lot of data. Di samping it can do multiple analysis for graphical representation. Okay. And usually for data acquisition system, it has more, you can add additional software. Boleh sambungkan dia dengan software untuk further enhance the graphical capability ataupun analysis. Whereby kalau data logging system ni dia memang dah macam tu, dah tak boleh dah nak tambah software ke apa ke, itu je lah yang you boleh buat. So that is the difference between data logging system and data acquisition system. Okay. So usually kat dalam exam, the question will be something like explain the differences between data logging system and data acquisition system. Okay. Okay, yang ni saya just nak tunjukkan there are also PC based data acquisition system. So kalau PC based data acquisition system, dia lagilah canggih sebab bila dia dah sambung kepada personal computer, personal computer itself can do a lot of things kan. Boleh ada berbagai jenis software and you can add more capability to the data acquisition system. So PC based data acquisition system will be more powerful if compared to the data acquisition system alone. Okay. Okay, this is just to show you the examples of data logger. Kan, data logger ni the one if you, kalau you all dah ambil kelas irrigation ke kelas environment macam mana, this is how this is an example of the weather station. Contoh macam weather station yang ada banyak data, weather data it can collect and it store it in the data logger. Okay, this is an example of data logger. But the capability you cannot analyze. You just store and display the value dekat apa ni? Dekat LCD macam ni saja. Okay, this is an example of data loggers yang digunakan di industri lah. Okay, digital oscilloscope. Okay, you also need to know that other than data acquisition system and data logging system, we also have digital oscilloscope. Yang is actually part of digital recording system, di mana oscilloscope ni digunakan untuk apa? Untuk kita display dengan detail the signal or information that we measured. Okay, dan ia bukan sahaja boleh display dan display macam tu saja, but you can also manipulate the signal. Okay, nak multiply the signal, nak terbalikkan signal tu by just pushing a button. So basically it helps instrumentation people to analyze signal that they receive so that they understand what happened and they can control the situation or the system. Okay, so that is digital oscilloscope. we also have a waveform recorders. Okay, waveform recorders ni dia lagi powerful daripada digital oscilloscope. Okay, sebab waveform recorders ni dia bukan sahaja display, dia records and also manipulate the signal. Dia boleh transform the signal into different version and do further analysis. So waveform recorders is another type, is another instrument that is very important for digital recording system. Okay, multiplexers. Okay, multiplexers is used in a lot of video devices. Kalau macam contoh macam you all punya TV communication, TV kat rumah, for you to receive signal from the satellite. Kalau dulu-dulu kalau dia punya box kan, for Astro dulu box dia besar kan. Astro ke apa? Astro lah. Astro box dia besar sangat kalau zaman dulu. That is because the multiplexer masa tu besar lagi. Okay, because dia nak manage the signal that coming from the satellite tu, they have to build the hardware that way. But now multiplexer has become more advanced kan, dalam bentuk chip je, kecil je. In fact dekat dalam sistem devices sekarang dah ada multiplexer sendiri. Okay, there is a very small one and it can manage the signal very efficiently. Tak perlu lagi besar-besar macam ni yang dulu-dulu. Okay, so there is also kalau kamu tengok dekat data acquisition board yang plug in into the computer tu, sebenarnya dia dah ada multiplexer sendiri dekat dalam ni. Dia ada multiplexer, dia ada signal conditioning circuit, dia ada analog to digital converter kat dalam ni, and then also dia ada microcomputer untuk dia buat data processing. So semua dekat dalam satu board yang kecil sahaja for them to monitor the data transmission. Okay. Okay, so we almost come to the end of the lecture. I would like to show you a very simple example of biological system instrumentation that use all the components that we discussed in the class kan. So for example here at the Instrumentation and Sensing Laboratory in Maryland, USA, here shows two engineers or research scientists who examine poultry carcass images obtained with a multispectral imaging system. Okay, a computer program analyzes the image to detect potential problems such as tumor. So basically the data that has been transmitted is in the form of images into the data acquisition system here, and then the data acquisition will convert it into, will do some analysis and convert it into the computer for recognition of the tumors. So this is an example how the digital instrumentation system is being used for instrumentation in biological engineering. Okay. Okay, another one is, this one is the sensor, smart sensor for real-time plant transpiration dynamic estimation. So basically they try to measure the plant transpiration dynamic. Plants kan ada transpiration, bernafas. Basically it wants to measure, to monitor the transpiration of the leaves kat dalam dekat dalam lab. And then it put some light sensors, leaf chambers, and put leaf temperature sensors and a lot of sensors around the leaves so that it can monitor the signal to see the changes when the leaf ataupun pokok tu, when the plant is doing the transpiration. Okay. So basically it use a lot of interfacing. Of course, they have a lot of interfacing as well as the digital system that is being used here is FPGA. FPGA is a processor lah, sejenis processor yang digunakan. Okay, this one is an example of the outdoor version of instrumentation system. The one that I shown you previously, semua ni dekat dalam lab. But in outdoor also possible for us to develop a instrumentation system. For example, this one, ultrasonic ranging sensing system in apple tree for tree crop management. So dia nak monitor the crops. Okay, so collect data by transmitting ultrasonic laser to the pokok, and then the signal will transmitted back to the system and they read the data. So in this case, the information from the sensor to the instrumentation to the sensing system is wirelessly lah, not connected, wirelessly goes to the ultrasonic sensing system. But of course, inside the instrumentation system itself, it has all the bus structure and data transmission protocol that has been used lah for the system. Okay, so that's basically the topic that we want to discuss today. Ada soalan tak? Sebelum saya nak bagi satu assignment, because last week we don't have class and I would like to give you an assignment for your assignment punya markah lah. Okay. Ada soalan? Tak ada?
Tak ada doktor.
Okay, so maksudnya okay lah ya, tak ada. Okay, untuk soalan, untuk assignment, sekejap ya, kita bincang sekejap assignment before kita dismiss. Assignment. Saya nak minta kamu buat okay, I would like you to go to www. Let me share screen sekali lagi. Firefox.com Dapat tak share? Tak keluar Nampak ke sekarang?
Nampak.
Okay, so I would like you all go to firefox.org, phyphox.org. So here, Firefox is basically an app. You can download an app. It's a free app for you for your smartphone. Okay, basically this app allow you to utilize whatever sensors that you have in your smartphone, and then it allows you to utilize that sensor for you to do physical experiments. Okay, so you have to try dulu the Firefox punya Firefox punya app ni. Okay, download, kat sini boleh download, and then each one of you will need to make a video about an experiment that you have conducted using Firefox punya apps. Okay, so video tu jangan lama 2 minit je, tunjuk macam mana kamu buat eksperimen. Dekat dalam website ni pun ada banyak eksperimen, contoh-contoh eksperimen yang telah dijalankan oleh many students around the world lah. Okay, so example dekat dalam YouTube pun ada contoh-contoh eksperimen. Contoh free fall experiment, speed of an elevator experiment. Okay, and there is also an experiment list kat sini yang you all boleh refer. Okay, and then come up with your own experiment and make a 2 minutes video presentation and submit to me. So I will give you the assignment description. Okay, so basically this is what you have to do. Go to https://firefox.org, download the app on your phone, explore the capability of the app in your phone, pick one type of measurement, for example, detect the frequency of a pendulum using accelerometer or measure the Doppler effect using its microphone. Okay, antaranya contoh And then test the capability of your phone sensor on making the measurement. Check the accuracy of the measurement. Does the measurement data making sense? Submit a 2-minute video of you conducting the experiments and explaining your measurements. Export your data into Excel and submit the analysis explanation of the data. And the class activity is due, I think, in 2 weeks. Boleh ke? Dalam masa 2 minggu. So this one ni last year ni. So basically kalau hari ni berapa bulan? Hari ni 2 Jun. So 2 Jun sampai 14. Jadi 16 Jun lah the deadline for this experiment. And this one will be I think 10% kot. 10 ke 15% of your total marks. So it's quite a huge portion of your total mark juga. So please do it properly. Kalau perlukan, I can give you some example of the last semester punya videos yang diorang buat yang bagus dan yang tak bagus. So video yang bagus, from the 2 minutes I can evaluate the student whether the student understand or not what she's doing. Okay. Dan saya boleh defect kalau student tu dia buat video tapi sebenarnya dia tak faham. So that one the mark will be lower lah than the one that we know whether the student understand or not based on the video. Okay. So ada soalan tak? Tak ada Okay, kalau tak ada soalan, that's basically the end of our lecture today. So we have finished data acquisition system. Next class will be on, I think, strain measurement. And I will share the lecture note in the Putra Blast soon. Okay, so thank you so much everyone. I wish all of you stay safe in the college and keep going for this semester. Hanya beberapa minggu je lagi, and I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doktor.
All right.
Thank you, Doctor.
Doktor,
Yes.